What's up, guys? Welcome to another Average Aaron's Auto video, and today we are back with our 2003 Dodge Ram 2500 5.7 liter V8, and today we're going to be changing the oil. So first thing is safety. Make sure you have not driven the vehicle in a while and that the engine is cooled off because you don't want hot oil coming out. Next thing, make sure you get your oil supplies, and for me, I believe I'm putting in some Valvoline 5.30, and I'm using synthetic high mileage because it's got 160,000 miles and it's 17 years old. So today we're going to be changing oil on our truck. Thank you, helper. I appreciate that. And I'm going to be using an STP filter, and I'll get to showing you guys that in just a minute. But first thing we got to do is, now that it's cooled off, is you got to locate where your filter is and also locate where your drain plug is. So we're going to go underneath the truck and crawl under, and I've already done the drain plug and pulled it out, and it is a 1/2 inch size socket head that comes out, and making sure all the oil can get in here. And you want a big enough pan because initially it shoots out at a great distance and then it slows to a trickle. You want to make sure you capture that because as you can see, I cut it a little close on the oil almost coming out of there. I'll have to get a towel and wipe that in there, make sure it's good to go. Also make sure the lid is tight because you don't want the oil to come in here just for it to come out later. So we found the drain plug, and then right up here is the oil filter. And it should be relatively easy to get off, but I'm gonna go ahead and pause and put the drain plug back in once the once the oil is done draining, because then I'm gonna need that drip pan for where the oil filter is, because there's a high probability that oil will leak out as we're changing it. So you want to make sure you're catching all that, not letting any of it get on the ground, and disposing of it properly at your local hazard waste. Most of the time, AutoZone or a shop like that will take it, but we've got a landfill here close that takes it as well too. So I'm going to pause, and we'll come right back once we get this filter off. All right, so I just loosened the filter, and there was a big stream coming out initially because there is a lot of filter and it's slanted, and that's okay. And it has a little piece of metal that's slanted so it'll flow down. So I'm going to give this a second to keep coming down before I take the filter off. And also, before I did this, I put the bolt back into the oil pan on the bottom. Make sure that bolt has a seal around it. When you put that bolt back on there should be a little rubber gasket or seal of some kind. If that is not on there, you need to go get one. Speaking from personal experience, I lost all my oil in my '84 Supra and warped a rod. So those seals are important because you want to keep your oil in the car so your car runs properly. All right, we'll come back and we'll talk about the filters. All right, guys, so I've got the oil pan, I've got the old filter here, and I've got the new filter here. Make sure you have a seal around the filter on here. Like this one is black, but I'm assuming it's old. It might have been a different color at some point. And some filters may have a thin ring that go around the edge on some of the older cars. Make sure you check for that if you have one, in addition to this inner seal that you see listed here. But these line up in terms of diameter. One of the good tricks that I've learned is to put it right on top of the other one and steal some of that oil and go ahead and get it on the new seal so that you can lubricate it so it slides right on and makes a good suction, or provides a good seal as you're tightening this thing on there. So get a good thin coat of oil around the edge of it as you put it on, and then once you get this on here, you can put it back. You can put it on the new one. So one thing I will point out though is that this filter is not as tall as this filter right here. So I'll kind of show you side by side what they're looking like. The one that was on there was a little bit bigger, but the part numbers line up and everything else is good. And it's only just a little bit bigger and deeper than the other one, and that's okay. You definitely want to make sure you don't cross thread it as you put it on, and everything else should be good to go. Let's put this filter on. All right, we got our new filter on there. It is probably the cleanest, nicest looking part of this truck right now because she's 17 years old, but that's all right. It fit on nicely, real easy to get on. I didn't cross thread it, and it should work. So just double check, make sure that is a very strong hand tight. If you have a filter wrench, you can use that. And make sure to double check your drain plug back there and make sure that's good too. And from here, we'll jump on top and pour in some oil. All right, so we've located the engine oil cap here, and we're gonna take this off. It is a massive lid and a massive hole, but it's a 5.7 liter, put that in there. I'm gonna wipe it out, clean it off, and then we're gonna use a filter. What color filter are we gonna use, buddy?
White.
Red, exactly. So we're gonna put the filter in, and we're gonna make sure you hold one side of it as you pour it in. You don't want any overflow coming out and getting everywhere. You'd smell burnt oil for a little bit while you're driving. And we're gonna put in the recommended amount here, 5.7 liters. But if you have any doubts or any questions, you can fill it up with a good amount, and then you can always check the engine oil dipstick for your level. So you would pull this out, wipe the stick off to remove any oil that had, come up while you're driving from bumps and whatnot. And then you'll stick it back in again to get a good indicator of where your oil level's actually at. So we're gonna add the oil and see how much it actually takes and let you guys know. All right, so we added the whole 5-quart bottle to this, which is fine. And we checked the oil and we still had more space in there. One other thing I am gonna add is a oil stabilizer. It's a little bit higher in viscosity, but it keeps the oil in the engine and lubricated more. So when you fire it up, there's a little bit less friction. Now in areas of like severe cold, this may not be a real good idea, but we're in the southern part of Alaska and it's not real bad. But I think the benefits outweigh the pros outweigh the cons for this one. So I'm gonna put just a little bit of oil stabilizer in here, and I wanted to show you guys like the amount that I'm gonna put in here because I am in a colder environment up here in Alaska. And I'm gonna put just a little bit of this in here. I think a little bit goes a long way. Boop. Additionally, I mentioned, I think, before the last cut that I said it's 5.7 liters of oil, and that's not correct. The 5.7 liters is in terms of displacement. The amount of oil it takes is slightly different. I believe it's 5.9 liters. So we're almost going to add the entire other quart to this system. But yeah, just put a little bit in there, and then we're going to add half of the next quart and check it and go from there. All right, so like I said, we added the full quarts, and this time we're just going to add about half of this and then check it just to make sure, because you don't want to overfill it. All right, so we got in the oil, we got it well in the safe zone on our dipstick, and then I added just a tiny bit more, not to exceed the lines on your dipstick. The reason for that is once you start up the engine, some of the engine will go to places where it can't currently reach and work its way through the system, and it'll be there just fine. So keep it within the parameters listed on your dipstick and within the manual, and you guys should be just fine. So another thing you want to do is make sure you put the lid back on here so that you don't drive around with the crazy funnel and stuff coming out. And this is also like the biggest lid I have ever seen for a, oh my goodness, for an oil filter addition place too. I've never seen one this big. So anyway, I'll get that on there in just a minute. Maybe. Of all the pieces for this oil change to give me a little bit of a heartache, I did not expect it to be getting the engine oil lid back on. There it goes. Just had to seat it in there better. Boop. And it's lined up so the words are actually facing the front, which is kind of nice for my OCD. All right, guys, I hope you liked this video. If you did, please hit like and subscribe down below. And hopefully this was helpful to you guys. Now, once you get all the oil and everything in here, make sure you run it for about 10 minutes to make sure it cycles everything through. And that way, if there is an issue with anything or you do spring a leak, because something isn't tight, you'll know it then instead of when you're out on the road in a bad way and you don't have anywhere to fix it then. So I would recommend run it 10 to 15 minutes while it's in your garage or outside where you can see. And that way, if there is a leak, you can notice it and fix it. All right. Thank you so much for watching. Hit that like and subscribe button down below, and we'll keep this content coming your way as we have projects. Thanks again for all your support. We'll see you guys next time.